Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. My name is Amber and I love reading books. Although you wouldn't know it by the fact that I have not been reading all that much, or at least at the beginning of this year I haven't really been reading, and I've slowly just been like reading here and there throughout the year. But in this past few months I have been really going hard on my reading game. I just haven't really been keeping track of the books that I've been reading or even talking about them anywhere. So I thought I'd just kind of like do a catch up wrap up of the things that I've been reading real quick, and then talk about the 2 books that I'm currently in the middle of. And I think for my next video, how you'll be seeing me do things is I will just, as I read, do wrap up, like not wrap ups, but reviews, and then at the end of the week compile them together, and that way you kind of get my in the moment thoughts of the books, like right after I finish them, kind of thing. I always liked doing that, and it just feels more authentic to me, and also it keeps it fresh in my mind. So anyways, let's just do a quick catch up. These books, other than the first thing I'm going to talk about, I don't fully remember all my thoughts on them, so I'm not rating them. I'm not going to go into huge details. I'm just going to like try to be a little bit quick on this, but I just wanted to go into details about this one because this is a book series that I used to read like once or twice a year. It's the book series that got me into reading in the beginning, in the first place, when I was a young teenager. And yeah, so that book series is the Anna Gale series. I'm just gonna hold up the 3rd book because that's what I have at hand, by Ella Montgomery. This is a series about Anne Shirley, who, when she's 11 years old, ends up being adopted by this brother and sister, Marilla and Matthew, who are expecting a boy. We could talk about the fact that it's a little off-putting when you really pay attention and you really think about the fact that they wanted a boy specifically to help around the farm. Because Matthew is getting up in age, and like obviously they, you know, but instead of wanting to hire those, they like, let's just adopt a boy. That just comes off problematic in itself, and also racist, because that's one of the issues I have with these books now, is the racism. But we see Anne growing up in her life with Marilla and Matthew, and then being a teacher, and then going to college, and then getting married, all etc, etc, etc. And so we just see her life growing up and everything. And I like the first 5 books. I didn't really like the last 3 books as much, mainly because they deal with her children rather than with Anne. But anyways, 3 reasons for why I'm not reading these books. The obvious one, as I've already kind of talked about, is the racism. Especially in the first book, it's really heavy-handed, and like how like she doesn't want those, I don't even know what the word is, but yeah, it's just like, it's right there in your face, but it's not super obvious. Like, if you're a child who has not been like super exposed to these things, you're not gonna notice it as much. I knew when I was young that there was something wrong with what she was saying. I just didn't understand what it was. I was just like, well, that's just weird, and I moved on. Until now, until these past like few years, when I've heard other people talking about it more, and just reading it myself now, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's just racism. Also, the fat phobia. I don't know if it's self-hate. I don't think so, because Anne herself, like, everybody talks about how Anne is like Ella Montgomery in a lot of ways, so I don't think it's that. It's just, I also have a problem with the fact that Anne is constantly like talking about beauty, and it's not like she's saying, I can find beauty in everything. She's like, it's kind of, it feels to me like it's coming off like either things are beautiful or things are ugly, and I don't want nothing to do with ugliness. And like, she talks about like people like being like not beautiful and stuff like this, and I'm just like, ooh, I don't like that. Don't like that at all. Anyways, and then the 3rd thing is the religion. Like, educating myself and stepping away from religion, and just like learning about like how Christianity has caused harm and continues to cause harm, as we're seeing in our own country right now, the harm that Christianity is continuing. You don't want to believe that Christianity plays a part in what's going on in our politics and the taking away of our rights, then you're misguided, and you need to go and educate yourself a little bit more, I think. But it's just always going to be something that's bit of a conflict in me, and I really am not here to have Christian positivity right in my face all the time, and that's like what these books are about. Although there's a lot of problematic aspects about like the religion aspect in these books, but yeah. That being said, these are books I will always keep because of the fact that they were the ones that got me into reading, but I will never read them again. Then I read Red, White, and Royal Blue. I will link everything down because I'm just like going off. I don't even remember what the author's name is at the moment, so I'm just gonna like, I will link everything down and give you all the, and so you can go and search these books out. I like this as one of my most recent reads. It was an enjoyable romance between these two, between the Prince of England and the President's son of the United States. But I wish that there had been a perspective of the Prince. Not just. I think we were missing something by not having that. I need to do some reading of reviews because I thought there was something problematic about these books. I don't know. I thought there was something about it, but I can't remember what it was. And I didn't really see anything in reading that was like, that stood out to me. I just kind of wish that I had both perspectives of these two characters. Sweet romance. I think that maybe people were just like, oh, a little heavy on the politics, but I think that's just going to be like an obvious thing that's going to happen considering the fact. Also, it was a little weird considering the timing of like everything that was playing out in this book, considering where we were in our own country at that time. Yeah, and you know if you know. So, anyways, then I read the Brown Sister trilogy by Talia Hibbert, starting with Get a Life, Chloe Brown, taking a hint at Annie Brown, and then the third book being Act Your Age, Eve Brown. And I absolutely enjoyed these books so much. I think Eve Brown was probably my least favorite just because she was a little annoying, but I absolutely enjoyed reading this trilogy so much. I just been really romance heavy, as you will notice as I continue on. I've just been very romance heavy lately. I want to get back into fantasy, which I will be soon. But yeah, really love these books. I own the first two books as audiobooks. I read the third book as through my Everon subscription, so I probably won't ever buy that book just because it's my least favorite, but also I would never have bought the first two books anyways if I had known that Everon had the trilogy. But anyways, really enjoyed it. I would recommend it. I tried to go on with Talia Hibbert. I will still be reading more Talia Hibbert in the future, but the one that I tried was The Fake Boyfriend Fiasco. I finished it, but it was not my thing. Like, with her, I think I was just expecting more of like what I got from the Brown sisters, and what I really enjoyed from the Brown sisters was the fact that it was relationship heavy. It was just these two people falling in love, and you're getting to see that. But this book was more, is erotica the right word? Because it was not about the romance as much as about the sex scenes that you're seeing, and that's just not for me. I want the romance. I don't really need the sex scenes for anything, and I didn't realize, oh, I kind of knew, but I didn't realize how heavy-handed it was going to be. So then I read Read Between the Lines and No Rings Attached by Rachel Lacey. The duology, romance duology, Read Between the Lines, is about this woman, I don't remember the name, so I'm sorry. It was, a book owner whose lease is being, like the lease of her bookstore is up, and like she thinks that it's just gonna be like the rent is gonna go up, but instead she's being forced to find a new place, and then the person that is like responsible for having to like do the pushing out or whatever, I don't know what the word is an author who this book owner knows, but only by the name of the book, the author's name, because she, like, you know, and so like you find out that they're like, oh, they're like in communication on social media, but they don't know each other's real life name. So like they're like falling for each other, and they decide to meet, and then they realize who each other really are, and like there's just like this whole drama around the fact that like she's the one kicking her out of her store, and like all the things. I found the book owner to be annoying, and also just wrong in a lot of ways with how she was reacting. I know it's emotional, and I know I know, but like at the same time, it's like I think your anger is misplaced a little bit here. Like she's doing her job, and she does recognize that on some level, but like she's still, so like there's this whole conflict with them falling in love, but at the same time, like she's having this issue with it, with like her part that she played in her having to find a new place. But anyway, I enjoyed the romance overall. But yeah, then I read No Rings Attached, as I said, which is sort of a sequel, if you want to call it that. But that book deals with the best friend who works in the bookstore, with her in the bookstore, and we see it's a fake romance with the book owner's best friend that like they always make this joke about how she always talks about how she's gonna come see them, but she always like backs off, and so like she's like this mysterious friend, but like you see like why she doesn't really come back to the town that they are in and everything. So you go on, but I liked it. I don't really remember like how frustrating it was, but yeah, I enjoy these romances enough that I would read them, but I probably wouldn't buy them. Then Going by Coastal by Delia Adler. This one, I don't remember my thoughts on it. I think it's forgettable, which I think it says enough about my thoughts on it as it is. So this is a book, all I remember is like, it's like one of those, like where you get to see her two choices like, parallel to one another. So like she has this decision to either stay with her father or go off to college somewhere else, I believe is how it plays out. So like you see both of like the decisions that she makes by doing so. Yeah, but I don't remember if I liked it or didn't like it. I think I was just indifferent. I think a lot of that has to do with I don't really like those dual things, and maybe that had a lot to do with me reading it through audiobook versus actually reading it myself. It might have worked better as reading it physically or through ebook rather than reading it through audiobook. But anyways, then I read Mechanics of Love, Heat of Love, and Renovation of Love by Mika James. This is a trilogy about, I think they're sisters or they're best friends. Sisters. It's been a while. But I do know that I absolutely freaking loved this trilogy, and I think I read it twice over, and I want to buy these books so much and reread them again because I absolutely freaking love this, and I want to read more Mika James. I need to find out how many other books she has out. So those are all the books that I finished in the past couple of months. Now I will talk to you about the two books that I am currently reading. I'll start with the one that I am currently reading as an audiobook. Why is this video? Why is this doing this to me? I really just need this to like not go down. Okay, there we go. And that is We Could Be So Good by Cat Stevens. This is a gay romance set in the 50s, and I think this author, I think it's Stevenson, not Stevens. But anyways, this is a gay romance set in the 50s, and I think this is something that this author does. Like, that's her shtick, is to write queer romances in, like, historically set. But anyways, we meet Nick and Andy. Nick works at this newspaper, the Chronicle, and Andy is the son of the newspaper owner who ends up working with Nick. And Andy, like, one of those people that, like, if he didn't have his head attached to his shoulder, he would lose it. Like, he's kind of that person. So, like, Nick ends up being the person, like, kind of, like, helps him, like, keep his clothes neat and find his keys for him and everything. And you see, it's a very slow burn romance. It took 50% for them to even, like, start, like, recognizing each other, like, acknowledging their feelings for each other. So, anyways, you see them falling in love, and we see the struggle with, like, especially with Nick, like, who had already knew about him being gay, but we also see Andy, like, realizing, like, oh, he's queer, and then, like, their romance. So it took forever. I think, I don't know, I feel like I want to read this physically at some point, because I think maybe that would change my perspective. I just found this a little bit boring. There just wasn't a lot going on, and the romance itself is good, and I'm really liking the romance, especially now that we're really getting into the romance. But, you know, there's all these other things that were going on. But as we're getting into, like, and I'm realizing, like, she was setting things up and giving you hints towards things that were going to play a huge part in this. And, like, right now, like, oh no, we're getting into, like, a conflict moment, and there's, like, this whole thing, like, we're seeing how, like, I was like, you know, it's still in the 50s when it's illegal to be gay. I just like, how's this gonna play a part in my relationship? It has to play a part because it can't be openly. You know, you have to be more careful how you live your life as a gay person while trying to not get arrested, not get killed. So, and then like there's this whole thing that he's writing when it comes to police corruption and his brother being a cop, and like there's like all these other things. I think that she could have explored these things. There's so much space that she had, but she didn't really touch on it super much. And then all of a sudden, we're kind of being slammed with all these things at once towards the very end of the book. So I'm just like, you could have like you had all this time to really get into it. So I just feel like the ending's going to be quite rushed. I am enjoying it. Again, I want to read it physically. I'm going to see if I can buy it real cheap. I think it's a newer book though, so probably not. But we shall see what I can do when it comes to that, because I do want to read it again. I do like it. I just think that there's a lot of things that she could have explored, that it's being all pushed to the end of the book versus having it spread out through the whole book. Especially when it comes to that police corruption article and his brother and like the family stuff. Yeah. Anyways, that's the book that I'm reading as an ebook. The Dressmaker's Gift by Fiona Phelps. And this, yeah, you have Harriet, who is present day. You see her like at the beginning dealing with her mother's death, feeling kind of adrift in the world. She's fine, and she's like cleaning out her mother's stuff. She sees a picture of her grandmother with these two other women, Marielle and Vivian, who are standing in front of this building in Paris, and it's a seamstress building, and she herself is wanting to go into the fashion world. So she ends up going to Paris, like basically like almost like pushing herself into the door to like work at this same building, and she ends up living in the same in that building which her grandmother and Marielle and Vivian were living in during World War II. By the way, I don't think I mentioned this. So she gets there, she meets a woman. It's very convenient that she meets this woman who happens to be the granddaughter of Marielle, and she ends up starting to tell her the story of Marielle, Claire, and Vivian. And so we end up going back in time, seeing the perspectives of Claire and Vivian. Not Vivian, but Claire and Marielle specifically. We have not gotten the perspective of Vivian at all. And so we see Claire getting involved with a German soldier. We see Claire getting involved in the resistance network. And then we know that Vivian is part of the resistance network, but it's like super top secret, and so we don't know like in what way she is working for them. But anyways, I am 50% in. I'm not really liking it. I think it's very basic writing. It's overdone World War II, talking about things that I wish that we would step away from when it comes to World War II. There's so much that we could talk about, like the fact that the first victims of the Holocaust were not Jewish people, but trans folks, and others that were not Jewish. So we could be talking about that. We could be talking about that there were other Holocaust genocides going on, but we ignore it because they were not white. But anyways, yeah, there's just so much that we could talk about that was happening in that time period, but we don't. We're always centered on the Jewish Holocaust. Not to say that that's not tragic or horrible, and we should recognize that, but we should also be recognizing a lot of the other things that get swept under the rug because of transphobia, racism, etc. Anyways, when it comes to this book, not really good. I don't like Claire. She gets involved with a German soldier, and like she's so superficial and like all this, but all of a sudden because he breaks her heart, now she wants to be part of the resistance. I'm just like, it took that. It didn't take the fact that Jewish people were being killed. It doesn't take the fact that it's because of the Germans that you're half starving. Like, give me a fucking break. There's just so many reasons for why she could have decided to be part of but no. He broke her heart. Oh no. I just think that, like, the author just didn't know how to handle this. Like, she wanted Claire to be the good person. She wanted us to be able to forgive her. And that was just an easy way out. out of that. Not really happy with this book. I don't like it. It's too short to deal with all the things that were going on at that time, to try to like cover certain things and to go into real depth as to like what was driving each of these women's goal. Like if she was taking more time to actually develop Claire out, maybe I would feel more sympathy towards her. But I can't feel sympathy for somebody who chose to go with some German guy just because he was tossing out gifts to her, and then as soon as she finds out that she was the mistress, be like, oh no, now I suddenly want to. Anyway, that is a whole thing about it. I'm gonna finish it because I really want to know what Vivian's role in the resistance is, and to see how this book ends. There's also this whole thing with like she keeps harping on about like how it's trauma is genetic. Like she doesn't talk about generational trauma. She calls it, is it genetics? Is it her genetics? And I think there's a difference between it being genetics and generational trauma. So like there's just like that whole weird thing. But anyways, I'll finish it. But I will talk about the book that I will be starting once I get done with this book. I have not decided what I'm going to be reading through Everend, but you'll find out what that is next week. But I will be starting my first fantasy novel in the longest time, The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. I actually have already started a little bit of it, and I'm already enjoying it. So I will continue on once I finish The Dressmaker's Gift. I just totally blanked on the title, but yeah, I will talk more about what this book is about, obviously, next week when I've started it. I don't know if I'll actually be able to finish this book by next Sunday, but we shall see. Anyways, that is everything that I have to talk about. Thank you all so much for watching. I would love to hear if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, and what are you reading at this moment. Thank you all so much for watching again, and I'll see you next week.